Okay, ready? Hello, hi, and welcome to the first spiritual shadowboxing of 2021. This was a brainchild of mine because, as you know, I'm a boxer and I love the idea of shadowboxing, of moving that energy through our body physically as well as emotionally. Because the emotion is emote and is to move unconscious energy and thoughts through the body. And what a great way of doing that physically. And Fereshta is an amazing shadow coach, and I love the concept of we come together to kind of really explore the shadows within, and we are actually shadow boxing with ourselves as a way of creating awareness, mindfulness, and ascension. So last year we had our lovely friend Kellie, who is no longer with us right now. We'll give a little shout out to her, but maybe she'll return as a guest at some point. So we're just going to carry the torch into 2021. And today we have some wonderful guests, and we're going to be talking about compassionate leadership. So our first guest is my dear, dear friend and boxing coach, if I have to say, Owen Thompson. And he's been the pastor of Grace Church in Nyack, New York for the last 7.5 years, which I happen to live right across the street. So, I get a front row view of that. And Owen has also been a social justice activist. He has been involved with combating food insecurities, homelessness, and racism. He is the founding member of the Nyack Hunger Coalition and the member of Rockland County Clergy for Social Justice. I kind of just reading a little bit from his bio, just wanted to give him a shout out, but he's more than all of that. He is a man that has a compassionate heart and would take his shirt off his back for you. He is a leader in our community. He is loved by our community, and he is a treasure. And we are very, very thankful to have him on our show. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not so quick to take my shirt off anymore, and then I'm 50.
Okay, we'll take your scarf.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you for that introduction, and thanks for being here. And I was with you last year for one of your episodes, and I do think it's a wonderful concept and a wonderful ministry, if I may use the phrase, to bring awareness to the transcendental, to those things that transport us beyond what we are just experiencing in our day-to-day duality. And so thank you for this opportunity for me to reconnect to that center, because it's easy in my work to get lost in the administrative stuff and the institutional stuff, that you lose sight of what this is all about. And so this helps me to keep my eye on the prize. So thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you.
We're looking for you, Owen. Yeah, and I'd like to introduce my dear, dear friend, Mahima, who to me has been a embodiment of compassionate leadership. We have been in circle together. Mahima has held many circles, holds retreats, sings beautifully, and holds space in a way that has modeled to me what it is to be an authentic, compassionate leader. So I welcome you if there's anything you'd like to say.
Thank you. It feels beautiful to be here. And I love to be part of things that are happening in the moment, because then something else comes in when it's not planned and we gather in the moment. So I feel blessed. Thank you for inviting me. And it's my first time. So I'm a virgin. Thank you for being so compassionate, holding me in this. And if anything comes through that can be supportive for anybody, I feel it's an honor. So thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. And so I think to begin, a question I'm holding is, what is compassionate leadership to you? What does that feel like in your heart? And what does it mean to you beyond the definitions we can read?
Who goes first? Who's that to?
Anyone who's feeling called?
I'll let my sister go.
Thank you. Everything starts with women, right? In Swedish.
Three of us right now, so
the Yeah, in Swedish, the word for goddess is gudinnan, which means before God. So,
Love that.
yeah, everything is birthed out of. And I think compassionate leadership for me is to be in the ever birthing energy, to not really have so many plans. It's the aligning with the ability to discern what is vital now for me and for everybody. So for me, it's to give up my limited small ideas and remember again and again that I am part of something that is alive now. And to me, that has been very challenging in many ways. First, I was mentioning the music. And I've been sitting on stage so many times and with my little plans, and then just feeling that I cannot sing that. I have to just shut down for a moment, be empty, and then focus on what's the highest for everybody involved, because that's my sole interest. It's that it's a win-win-win. And that's a possibility all the time. So to give up my own idea and become empty and then lead from there. Then I feel that I don't step in my own way, because sometimes I want to overgive. I want to give so much that I get so excited. And I notice that when I see people go, like in the beginning of my leadership training in life, like 20 years ago, I had a plan to give them something that would probably take a year to digest, and I wanted to give it in 7 hours because here they are, and I just want to give. So for me, it's been guided by simplicity and being empty, and remember that it's not me. And then I'm part of it. So whatever comes through is always alive. It's always serving, including me. So all-inclusiveness, the capacity to surrender, because surrender is fresh. It's like the breath. We can't just collect them and say, I'm okay now. I don't need to breathe for a week. Surrender is fresh again and again, and everybody has to surrender. So if I surrender into the softness and the gentleness and the capacity to be led from something higher, no matter what we want to call that, then everybody gains. So yeah, that's what comes now. So the key word is surrender, and to surrender we need to trust. So that's also to stay close to the heart, because the heart is always trusting. That's my view of it. I hand it over to my brother now.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, for me, being, part of an institutional body, but more so part of a beloved community, as one who follows Jesus the Christ. And I want to make a distinction between being a Jesus follower and a Christian. Christians, how should I say, are anything but Christ-like in many ways, as we've seen. So I make that distinction at the outset. And that is my model for what compassionate leadership is. And then embodied my father before me, who was also a priest, pastor, who I realized in watching him, he spent time with people. He was present. He would be late for services and things like that because he'd be talking with someone who had lost a loved one or was going through a cancer diagnosis or whatever. And so for me, that was always an example of what true leadership really is. Compassionate leadership, as it's been brought to the fore, for me has always been a ministry of presence, coming at it with humility, to your point, coming at it with a sense of just openness and surrender. Because I think anything else is authoritarian, anything else is ego. And we know, as Deepak Chopra says, ego means edging God out. And I how can one lead, particularly spiritual leadership, if God is not at the forefront and in the center of all things? So for me, it's always been about being present. I don't always have the words. I've often been in situations particularly in pastoral situations where, dealing with people who are on their deathbeds, young couple, in one case particular, had an infant stillborn, and you don't have words, and people are looking to you in a way, but not necessarily, you don't want to just spew out liturgical texts, but just being present is a form of leadership in and of itself, because you help anchor those individuals in those circumstances through those trials and tribulations. And so I find that's worked for me. And again, I just have to stress the humility aspect of it. I do not have all the answers. My job is not to save the world. My job is just to show up and let spirit, let grace guide the process. And so that's what I've sought to do. And so far, so good. There are times where the ego's at war, and you want to take charge, and then that's where you fall, and you learn that I'm on for the ride as well. So I'm being led as I'm leading, so to speak.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I resonate so much with what both of you have shared, and kind of just want to piggyback instead of adding, saying the same things, of this like leading with empathy and curiosity. That has been I want to say a new skill for me, but like being less self-referenced and being more other-referenced, and holding that bigger view in any moment has been a skill I've developed that just allows me to go, what's going on with everyone, right? What's going on in the whole little sphere I'm in? So leading, I think, with empathy is still one I'm working on, where I'm not, again, in ego or an agenda for things. Kellie, what about you? I saw you kind of holding your heart earlier. So
oh my God, I just love you, both of you. And talking about, you have to, if you could at some point in the chat the word goddess in Swedish, if you could leave that for us to have that would be amazing. And it's all, the idea about the goddess before God, because about the birthing and pulling the feminine card and talking about that feminine energy, which is birthing, which is trusting and allowing to get out of your own way. I'm like you, where I'm trying to plan my meditation. I'm trying to do a Patreon page. I'm trying to do all this thing. And I find that there's so much resistance in myself because I feel like you really need to, plan a little, but then allow a lot, and the one thing that you always say about being curious about other people as you lead or as you try to understand, I think that is such a beautiful word, because there's a word being, they say, to be cognitive of another person, to understand where someone else is coming from or thinking is part of that empathic journey. But I think cognitive to me is a word that doesn't sit as well as being curious about where somebody is now and where somebody else is. And the last thing I want to talk about, the word selfing, which is that narrative of I, me, and mine that can often get in the way of being a compassionate leader. So Laura Ladd is somebody I follow, and she talked about in the last podcast about this ping-ponging of energy, emotional and energetic, trying to prove yourself right. And that kind of, you know it when you're being triggered, and as a leader, I'm sure that you can be triggered quite a bit, but then that ping-ponging of like being defensive and wanting to either blame or defend, and allowing that to go, because it's all about that cognitive curiosity, right? And just putting that aside and allowing the goddess to birth whatever she likes or needs or wants for us to follow, because I think to serve is what we all are craving right now. How do we serve? So that's it. That's all I got to say on that. Moving on to the next question.
Yeah, and I think, Owen, you hinted at this, so it is one of my questions, where you've seen this modeled for you, before you. If you both want to share about that. You mentioned your father, so I know that's a place of modelship.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he never, the work of any leader is difficult because you're leading people, and so often in this work, as I've experienced and as he's experienced, you lead the charge. People are saying they're all in, all in, and then when the stuff hits the fan, if you will, you turn around and you're often by yourself, or you're in the midst of all the squabbling and you lose sight of the vision and so on. It's easy to get caught up in the fray. But my father always stayed above the fray by never engaging in the fight, never engaging in debate, particularly if the debates were often insular, aggrandizing, those types of things. And so my father never fought, even when physically or verbally accosted, as he was in his time, as he fought for racial justice in Cincinnati, Ohio, and as he lived through the civil rights movement. And so, that to me really set the model for me to try to have that same approach, having that listening heart, and also trying not to engage in the fray, staying above it, keeping my eye fixed on where I believe Spirit is leading. One of the things that our presiding bishop in our church is drawing all our attention to as leaders in the church is the way of love. And he said, that's the path. And that's what we need to stay upon, lead toward, help others find. And if we keep that as the goal, it's easier not to get lost and distracted. And Kellie used the phrase, the tridium of the I, me, what is it again?
I, me, mine.
Yeah, I use me, mine, and more.
Add as many M's as you like.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that was so I'm glad I had him as my model. It really has helped me to endure a lot and not lose hope, and it's the easiest to do as well, and to want to take a back seat and kind of look at the world and through the cinematic lens, which I think we tend to do as a culture, particularly in America. We just kind of look at the world and say, oh, well, stuff's out of control, but we don't realize that we are part of the narrative, and that we also have that leadership role. To Kellie's question, about how we all feel the sense of to serve, but we kind of sit back and just watch things. And so yeah, this compassionate, the compassion aspect of leadership has helped me engage it in ways that, so it's not just mechanical, rote, detached from real time, real people, and real issues. And so I think bringing that sense of compassion. So for me, in other words, as I've said before in our last conversation a while back, but it really is my motto. My true religion is not Christianity. My true religion is love. That's my religion. And to be able to hold fast that and be a part of and a leader within that, and to have that compassion, that's what makes it all make sense, makes it all more worthwhile. Even when all the other stuff happens around me, all the institutional nonsense that we get caught up in, at least in the church structures. I'm staying on the love train. I'm going this way. If y'all want to follow, this is where we're going to be. If not, I gotta do what Jesus did, shake the proverbial dust and keep on moving, So.
Beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll happily tune in on this a little bit, because I didn't have any role models. That was actually what pushed me inside again and again. It was like the lack of role models boomeranged me back into what was part of my soul's mission, I think, for this life, to really trust in the inside and stand up for that, not get lost in all the pre-ideas that's been planted either through family or culture or movies or whatever, and discerning when am I in tune, and not looking for the result on the outside that confirms that, but really trusting when I feel. So I started getting this, what I called my confirmation thrill. It's like it's just like fairies are going like this inside. And then I know that's my confirmation. I needed something, a sign from inside that I knew, now I'm in tune. Now I'm open. And then I started looking outside, because I realized that I was in so much tension. I got into this system of wanting to be a good girl, and ingrained my whole way of being, and I wanted to show up and be good so many times that I just got so lost. And I realized I never felt relaxed. I always wanted to count the results, and it was never enough. So it was an ongoing. And then the guidance inside was, and I so resonate with the love train, because I also resonate so with the Christ Sophia, or whatever we want to call it, that energy that is there all the time, omnipresent. It's never just connected to somebody, it's everybody. So we can move out of our minds and think that it's limited, because so many times we measure it like, yeah, you know.
I know.
So for me, that leaning into trusting my guidance, I have no proof. My guidance is saying this loudly, sometimes shouting. And then I started looking outside. If people are relaxed when I'm there, then all is well. Because it's not up to me to know. So the presence and the relaxation instead of the result. We have so much in our society that says, have an intention. And I look a lot at words, and I'm like, I do not want to be in tension. I want to be relaxed.
Yeah.
Okay, I can have a focus, I can have a wish, I can be part of being the channel, but I don't want to get lost in that game, because it takes me away from the moment. And this is in the moment where everything happens, and it requires relaxing, surrender, and trusting that something way bigger. I mean, so many times I got down on my knees and I'm like, I agree. Your miracle plan is way bigger than my limited view. So help me get out of my limited mind that I keep on standing up in again and again, and the good girl. So it's an ongoing dissolving layers, I think. Mm-hmm. And I also want to say, I am not for confining or repeating women and men, female and masculine, because there is unity that is possible. And if I can surrender into the soft feminine, if I have no way of expressing that or moving it out in the world, and by the help of my masculine side, what am I? I'll just be floating away. So to again and again see that we are equal, but we are not the same. We have these two parts inside, and they need to cooperate. And when they do, magic happens. Exactly. And we feel content and relaxed. That was my take now. Thank you.
Actually, that's a good segue into what I had a question about. And I think you kind of answered it right there. What are your tools that you use to find the compassion, the empathy, to be a leader? And maybe, Owen, I'll throw that to you as I fix my light that fell. If you heard a big noise, that was that. So yes, Owen, what are your tools, Owen, that you have?
Well, I got booted off the net, so I don't know if I froze or something.
You did for a second, but you're back.
Okay.
You were in the void for a second, and you came right back.
Can't pay the bills here at the church, I guess. Well, I think, the tools, clearly, prayer and meditation, this work cannot be done absent that. I've learned that the hard way, because I felt impoverished when I'm not centering myself and connecting with spirit, because then becomes about me. So that has been a major tool. And I also think just, aside from some of the external, letting out some of those aggressive tendencies, thoughts and things, because there is that righteous anger that wells up in the face of all the stuff that we encounter as we try to bring more compassion to a world that often seems to want to reject it. I would say, beating up Kellie in boxing class and Dora. No, but I would say, but again, I think it's really about being in community with people, staying in connection with like-minded. And I don't mean by that sense, I don't mean like, like I'm not open to other opinions, but I just mean being around positive energy, positive people who help to shepherd, who feed me and sustain me, and also hold me to account. I think that has been, I think none of us could have made this through this pandemic, quite frankly, absent the establishment of I hope some of us had those pod people, those pod groups, where we can get together and actually have that human connection, and which we so desperately need. And so for me, it's been community, putting these things, these theories, these questions to the test, in real time, real ways. So I would say those are the two main things, prayer and people.
Oh, very well.
I love that. I'm also being reminded, because of some of the conversation about compassionate leadership not necessarily being this quick, easy thing, right? This thing you're growing into, things you're unlearning to remain in it. And then also just for other people to know, like, when they are holding their pastor, when they're in community with their pastor, that's allowing you also to continue being their leader.
Right.
So it's this beautiful synergy that I'm hearing. Yeah. Mahima, how about you?
Yeah, I would like to add also, for me, nature is a really, really big tuning fork. So if I don't take my walks and just hug a tree or just breathe in nature, then I disconnect in a way. So over the years, I think it's been, when I've been communicating with myself around ideas for a retreat or something, then I want to show up like the professional and, have this little list. And then it just started coming that, give that up. Make sure you take the walks, rest in the bath, tend to your temple so that you can show up soft, cared for, and relaxed. Yeah. And then be curious, be naive, be innocent. Dare to move out of that sphere and trust it. Stay silent until something comes through, because everybody will know it. Again and again, Spirit tells me from inside, vibration never lies. Never. No matter how much you try to dress it up in costumes of words and ideas, and vibration doesn't lie. And we know that. And all vibration is not for everybody. But just like tuning forks again, the actual instrument tuning fork, if you push it, ding, others start making the same sound. And that's what we can be for each other. So to actually hold my vibration and rest in it, it's not an effort, because it's my vibration. And then just see what reflects, what opens up naturally in others. I don't want to force anything on anybody. I want to enjoy, because so many great messages comes through. So I laugh, I cry, I really enjoy it, because I get to go to a retreat myself. And that's like, wow, that's amazing. So I think nature, and then also for me, it's putting my body in a bathtub, because something happens when I'm in water. When I'm totally surrounded by water, I relax deeper. So again, it's about the relaxing, but the tools to really relax. So yeah, that was my take on it now.
I hear the word tending too. Oh, sorry, Kel.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I hear the word tending, which I want to hold, like, as a leader. Sometimes it almost sounds counterinstinctive. I've got so much to do. I've got to lead. I've got to go. There's fires to put out, especially in social justice, right? And yet the word tending just has such a yielding quality to me that, of course, the cup must be full. And I like the term, like, giving from your saucer instead of from your cup, giving from the overflow when possible.
Beautiful. Love that.
That's great. That's a good one.
I love you all right now.
That was Tony, by the way, because I talked to him last night.
Oh, you did? I love him too.
He said, don't give from your cup, give from your saucer.
That's beautiful.
I like that.
So I love that we are actually, presenting, really beautiful tools and ways for people. And I loved what you about your vibration. Like your vibration is your vibration, and to trust the vibration. I never really quite thought about that. And I'm like you. I get a lot of downloads and inspiration and in the bathtub. There's something about being submerged in that water. And if you remember, our bodies are like, what, 90% water? I don't know what the percentage, but it's a lot. And that water, I feel, can be such a catalyst for spirit, catalyst for whatever you want to call it. The goddess Sophia and the Christ energy, or your guides, or your intuition. But it is, if you think of the water surrounding and creating a womb around the water within your own body, what a beautiful synergy to connect and have a wonderful tool. And I know everybody here are big on Epsom salt baths. I think we're all kind of really into that. So it's great that we have some tools. Maybe we'll write it in the chats, the different tools that have come up, because I think it's really important as people move forward in this, as the climate changes and more people want to serve and they want to become a leader in their community in some way. And maybe you're even afraid of that word, because I'm a little afraid of that word, to be honest. Leader, like, I don't kind of wear that very well. But throwing compassion and empathy and surrounding that word leadership makes it to me a much more powerful and beautiful thing that I can get behind and resonate with, if you guys understand. So yeah, thank you for sharing all those amazing tools. And Fereshta, do you have another question, or do you have?
Yeah, I think just a comment on this conversation, because what's kind of circulating from all the articulations to me is this, like, again, the tending to being okay, being ourselves as leaders, right? Not having to force an agenda. There's something here for people who are stepping into this to recognize that they already have the medicine they're going to bring. And maybe they need the tools, like Kellie's saying. Maybe they need ways to pave their energetic way. But I'm going to geek out a little here, because my depth psychology goes, wow, everyone's talking about tending and relaxing, which is not the limbic, not the amygdala, not the back of the brain, the hindbrain, which doesn't really have inspired vision, right? It all sounds like prefrontal cortex. It all sounds like where we have inspired vision, inspired strategy. I also think of those intuitive hits, right? It comes from being in the forebrain for our bodies, since our bodies do exist. I forget, like I think like, oh, spiritual, emotional being, and it's like, oh wait, I gotta tend to the vehicle, to the P.O. box
Yeah.
of all of this. The spiritual address needs to be tended to.
Beautiful.
So yeah, it feels like a big conversation. Is there anything else you all want to be seen in?
Well, I think one of the things that's come out of this, we use a phrase in my faith tradition called the priesthood of all believers, which means that I am just one of many. And unfortunately, the way that the archaic system is set up historically has been to have this kind of tier, priests, laity, and so on. And so people, again, going back to that cinematic dynamic, is that, that people just tend to have a very active squirrel outside my window. That people tend to abdicate responsibility. And what I'm hoping is that more and more people will awaken to a shared sense of leadership. I believe in a shared ministry model in the way that I work. It's not about me taking charge and so on. It's about us sharing in this work. And so my hope is that, particularly as we see the in our country in particular, this retrograde of racism in our midst, and we saw this ugliness on display at our Capitol, and indeed these past 4 years in particular. But that those of us who want to change the paradigm, those of us who want to change the story, that if more and more of us stepped into leadership roles, compassionate leadership roles, what a world we would have. So I'm hoping what this conversation will branch out, and the fruit that will bear will be that more people will awaken to that I am part of the solution. we often complain we feel imprisoned, but we had the key the whole darn time.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that we spring forth and we'll share in this together, because none of us can do it by ourselves. And I've learned that the hard way in terms of my work. And often when I find myself exhausted or losing heart again is when I feel like I'm carrying the entire load. And unfortunately, again, in my context, it has often been the case where, you're leading the charge and no one's with you and all that. I'm hoping that does change. I want to add one last thing, one plug for motorcycling for those of us in terms of tools.
Oh, that was on your bio. I didn't mention.
Yeah. There's nothing like getting on a motorcycle, similar to, what you were saying, Mahima, about, nature and, to be on, the road. The metaphors are many, but just to have that sense of attunement to the road, to the machine, and then have that peripheral awareness to the world around you. So you live in this tension of danger and safety, fear and courage simultaneously. It's just amazing. And so when you get off this thing, you're just so elated. And so there's something about it. I wish more and more of us would be on motorcycles.
All right, let's create a game.
Great tool.
I would add
Love
something to
train.
that because I was on a horse right before I came in here. So it's kind of similar. You said
get
there's
it.
nothing like getting on a motorcycle. And I would say, yes, there is. Get on a horse in nature. And then you actually have something alive also, and you can be in communion with it. So that's a leadership training because and it's a good metaphor because the horse wants to be led, but the horse carries enormous power. So you can find out in the present about your own leadership. Because the horse will not lie. You can't talk to it and say, please pretend because I want to look like a good leader now. The horse doesn't give any care about that. So it's a good way of just meeting oneself and finding out. And what I would like to say also is that everybody leads their own lives. Everybody does. And if we look at the word responsibility, the ability to respond, and if we would add compassionate to that, how is my life if my ability to respond is compassionate towards me? And we have two fundamental things, needs that are including everybody in the whole world. We want to be seen and we want to contribute. And I think a lot of leaders come with so much willingness to share themselves that they forget to step back and just hold the vibration of growth. Lean into that everybody can be seen, everybody can contribute, and when they do, they will grow, and then we are inspirations. So I think that's another tuning into that in ourselves to be inspiring in spirit. Then it doesn't cost us anything. So
And I want to, there was one thing when I was, kind of just, doing a little, research on compassionate leadership in my own meditation. One thing that I came and found online was that I think through empathy, and I think as leaders to cultivate that mindfulness in others is how to allow them to fulfill to their greatest potential. It's like, like I love the idea of like, we are all leaders because we lead our own life. What a little beautiful gem that is, again, feeling like, the word leadership on my shoulders feel a little heavy, but, of course I lead my own life, and to have that empathy and compassion for myself and my mindfulness for myself with some of the beautiful tools that you all shared, I can feel my own potential, and then others can, and feel sacred space to have their own potential needs met. And so I think that it's been an amazing journey with you all here, and I'm so grateful. I love you so much, all of you right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to add one little thing if I can. I think it's also, I guess it was Mother Teresa that was the main role model for that, but to not be in opposition, because a lot of time is so wasted, so much energy again, nothing is really wasted. It's an experience, but still, to refer to what you said, Owen, about, bringing that new world together of all inclusiveness and forgetting about all the fights, and focus more on what really is all inclusive, what brings us together, instead of being in opposition. So now, now I feel content with saying that too. Thank you so much. This was been so fun.
We have Doro here that has joined us, which thank you so much. Maybe if you want to be unmuted, if you have a question or if you want to say anything before we end a lovely discussion.
No, I have no question. I was just really enjoying your little conversation about leadership and, being in tune with oneself, which we all need to be, and it's a continuum journey. It's sometimes a challenge, sometimes it's easier, and, we have to do it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
We miss you, Doro. And it's only been 2 days.
I know. I miss the boxing from yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just so you know, this is my friend outside my window. Stayed there the entire time while I was in conversation.
Wow.
I love squirrels. They represent playfulness, Owen.
Good to know.
Well, and I
Well,
wanted
this-
to share
yeah.
too, the juice of this conversation again comes back to anyone can step into leadership and find their way, find role models or not. Mahima, in your case, it was I see warning signs. I want to find something else that's more meaningful. And I think of a quote that I will butcher a little bit. That's the true leaders don't tell people how to build the boat. They give them a hunger for feeling and being on the sea.
Oh, beautiful.
Right? Something like that. I'll email you all when I find the actual quote. But it's holding the vision, and the not againstness. To your point, Mahima, of I'm seeing this in the world of activists, that there's a space for reactionary activism, right? We are against this, we're furious about this. And then I'm seeing visionary activists who are I am furious for this. I am, standing for this. And it's an interesting, to me, I feel an expansiveness when I think of that kind of activism.
I love that.
Like you said, Owen, eye on the vision and the mission, and not necessarily getting stuck in the mud with all the obvious, human things.
Well, I think that we had an amazing, wonderful conversation, and again, our deepest gratitude for being our amazing guest. And this is our first episode of this year and a new format. And I just want to you both have just, all of you have just opened up my heart so much this morning, and just pearls of wisdom and information. And I love you all for joining us today.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you so much.
Come home safe, Doro.
I will, don't worry. And thank you all.
Mahima, what a joy to meet you.
Likewise,
I can feel
not to
your
put any
spirit.
pressure on you, but I trust more in men than I used to. So thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
I said to you,
I'm working on it.
I said to you the other day, Mahima, it only takes one unicorn.
Yeah, that's true. Now I see that they exist.
Once you see one in the forest, and Owen definitely.
Absolutely. I'll ride right up to it.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
I feel buoyed and inspired and a momentum inside my own heart that it is possible to lead. So thank you. Sometimes as leaders, we need to be uplifted by each other to continue the work, the honest work. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. And also to have that reference point that everybody in the end feels fulfilled. That's also one way of really measuring. If you as a leader feel emptied and tired, after leading, then that's a sign you're not leading from that place where it's actually serving you and the whole.
Very good. Beautiful.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.